you seen it? No. You see it? Oh, yeah. You see it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's seats up here.
Okay, everyone. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. I want to welcome you to East End Books, Ptown, and because of the rain, a lot of people switched their tickets to live stream. So I guess that's good because we have to be inside and we don't have a lot of room anymore in this store because I have so many extra shelves and everything. And normally we go down to Chameleon and set up the chairs down there because it's empty, but unfortunately my friend Clyde is out of town, so as luck would have it, we are cozying up, or as my mom in Aiken, South Carolina would say, you just hug up together, like they say in the South, and that's what we're doing. So I'm glad to see we have a few dogs here for the event. We have something special for them. Afterwards, somebody already got a bunch of special things, but there'll be more. So, as usual, we will have extra signed copies of these books, both authored books, Dog Time and Mississippi Barking. Come on in if you're here for the book event. We're closed for the event because of the rain. And so we'll have signed copies here as well. And then I'll be checking our Gmail. So if you're watching the live stream at any point and you actually want a copy that's like to you, your name or something, I will see that I can get them. But I'll point out that unlike most of our summer authors who don't live here, Barbara's here a lot, and Chris is on the Cape, and Chris is in here on Saturdays, typically. So I can get, from the two of them, personalized copies. So there's not a big, so don't worry if you want it to somebody in particular, we'll get them. Okay, upcoming events, all on our website. The next event is tomorrow night. We have one of my book about, first hopefully will be Chameleon downstairs. Other events are on there. We're going to have events here through Holly Folly, and the events will also be at our new store in the Seaport next to the ICA Museum. So the schedule will be all on there for that. And then the only thing I would mention is that we do have, people ask about events that are close to selling out. We have an event in November 2nd at the Boston store. I mean, it's on our event page, but I don't know how people are knowing about it yet, but it's the first author, this is probably why, because they can find anything, the Swifties. The first authorized book on Taylor Swift is coming out end of October, and we'll have Stephanie Burt, professor at Harvard, November 2nd at our store in Boston. Stephanie went viral because she's teaching she taught the first course on the artistry and of poetry of Taylor Swift at Harvard. So that event will be there, and then there's going to be a big party at my friend's new wine and tapas bar right next door to our bookstore, so check that out. Final thing, save the date. Anyone that's in the greater here or in the greater Boston area, December 7th, which is a Sunday, I am co-hosting an event with the actress and author Christy Cashman and her husband Jay Cashman at the Quinn, the private club that Ken Falk is the creative director of, and I'm thrilled to say that we're going to have the event in Lunasol, which is the newest restaurant that Ken has created. It's like being in San Paulo. So we have cards here, and there's going to be information out soon about that. All the money goes to the Theater Offensive, and the Theater Offensive has been around for 30 years. I'm chairing their capital campaign to build a new theater in the Fenway, and it's for everybody, but it's designed to create opportunities for Black and brown, queer and trans playwrights. And so that's what we're doing. The new executive director, Giselle Burr, is a Black trans woman from New York who is in talent management with some of the biggest stars and is in Boston, is phenomenal. So that's going to be happening. Anyway, I'm very excited to have these two people I love very much. There's Chris, but I know them both a long time. Chris McLaughlin, who also, like I said, works here as a bookseller extraordinaire and has been with us for a number of years. This phenomenal book, Mississippi Barking, Hurricane Katrina, A Life That Went to the Dogs. And it's very fitting that we have this event now. Chris, the 20th anniversary of Katrina. If you saw our newsletter, the last newsletter or the one before that, there's a fantastic story interview that with Chris there, so you can see that later on. And then we have Barbara Cohen. Come on in. The phenomenal artist, Barbara Cohen. I love her art, and I'm glad that with the publication of this book, I can afford something from Barbara. Because I can afford this beautiful book, and it is gorgeous, full color art. It's just absolutely beautiful. So you can see that. as well. And again, I'm sorry we can't be outside with everybody. The other time last week where the rain hit, of all things, we had Margaret Holloway here with her book, Take to the Trees. So we really needed to be outside, and we were inside. But such is life. Anyway, okay. So I just basically, this book, Mississippi Barking, is a winner of the 2023 Best Book Award in the category of Animal and Pets, narrative nonfiction from the American Book Fest, an emotional recounting of animal rescue during the aftermath of one of the nation's worst storms. And then I come right in, we're inside because of the weather. And then, of course, Barbara Cohen is a celebrated award-winning artist. We have both of their bios on our website about this, but basically, Barbara's current work is a continuation of abstract works on paper. Well, this is not this one, but I'm reading from your artist statement. But I do want to say this being Greek. Works on paper depicting the landscapes of the structures and walls from the Greek islands, the Greek culture, the people, their joy, and their colorful ways of daily living. So that's really great. But this particular book is, Barbara, of course, is an abstract painter, sculptor, photographer, and author. And Dogtime features oil-manipulated, painted Polaroids using Fujifilm. Barbara received her BFA from Tufts University in the School of Museum of Fine Arts, Boston, with earlier studies in art history at the wonderful Oxford University. You'll be hearing a lot about both of them tonight, and we thank you for kind of rolling with this weather today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
It's nice to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yes. Our books are very different. Mine is narrative nonfiction, and Barbara's is a fabulous coffee table picture book. So it's very different. But one thing that we do share is a profound love for dogs. And because it's the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, which was a seminal moment in my life, it completely derailed my life. Well, I wasn't really on the rails at that point, so, but it just took me in a direction that I never saw coming. And so I just wanted to, out of respect for the day and the history, I just wanted to read a very short piece, and I'm not going to read any more. Barbara and I are much more invested in having a conversation and including the audience. So that's our goal for today. So the prologue of my book, I wrote this word for word in the form of an email for 4 months after Hurricane Katrina. And I was on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi at the time in a very bad shelter, and alone, and just shaking my head at what had occurred in our country and what wasn't occurring in our country. It has been almost 5 months since the levees broke in New Orleans. 5 months since Katrina wiped the slate clean along the Gulf Coast in Mississippi. 5 months since the worst natural and animal disaster occurred in our country. During these past months, ARF, my organization, has been among the hundreds of volunteers who flocked to the Gulf to save the animals of Katrina. We crawled under buildings to pull out a feral dog or a litter of puppies living in the filth. We drove the streets at night searching out the packs who formed as a means of survival. We carried the wounded, fed the starving, and hoped that more could be done for the animals. We drove them up the East Coast. We found them new homes, and we watched them die. We did so much with so little. It's been over a week now since I returned home. Having some distance from the destruction has paved the way for some reflection. It's amazing what sleep will do for a tired soul. I have hope that somehow, some way, we will all learn from the lessons Katrina taught us. We will learn that if we don't care, we can't expect others to. If we don't watch over our four-legged friends, no one will. If we don't strengthen the levees will break. Natural disasters will continue to happen. We can all count on that. What we don't need to accept is the indifference we witnessed in the aftermath. Because the truth is, Katrina happened to all of us. It happened in every corner of our country. It happened whether we chose to look or not. I thank you for looking. I thank you for caring about the animals. They are still out there. When I first went to Mississippi and New Orleans, my life looked much different than it does today. In some ways, I am much stronger for the experience, and in some, I am much more disillusioned. What I've learned is that the building of levees begins at home. Caring about each other begins with us. It took a country of people to care about the Katrina kids. Please keep caring. In the coming weeks, ARF will be facilitating transports out of the Gulf Coast. We need good homes for the kids. We want you to never forget Waveland or Manuel Williams, who lost his beloved child, Missy, at the Superdome. Please hold on tight to them, so when the levees break again, they will not get swept away. And just one more thing before we engage with one another, which I had such a blast doing with Barbara the other day. At the end, I'm going to just talk really briefly about what we need to do for disaster preparedness with our animals. I can't really address the human aspect, but I can address what we need to do with our animals. So it'll take just a couple of minutes at the end of the event, so please stay for that. There'll be quick but useful information. And with that, I am sitting next to the remarkable Barbara Cohen, and when Jeff said to me, I really want to do an event for your book, and who can we get? And then she came out with this book, Dog Time. And we were like, oh my God, this would be perfect, even though they're two completely different books. So we got together a couple of days ago at Maria's, and we just hit it off like that. And we both had the same vision that we wanted for this event. So I'm gonna start by asking you a question.
Yes or no?
No, it's not. No, it's not a yes or no. Actually. So, who was the first dog that you not only fell in love with, but that profoundly changed your life?
That's easy. I was living in Northern California in a town called Ptown, and there was a cardboard box of dogs, Labrador mix, and I had never had a dog. My father was from the Bronx, and though he was 6'2", he was scared of dogs. So we never had a dog, and when I moved to California after college, I decided to get a dog. And so I had this dog, and then his name was Eros. And he was a great love. He was a real free spirit. It was a time when we didn't really have to put leashes on dogs. So he ran around, and then we moved to Southern California, and we lived on the coast in Santa Monica Canyon. And my dog would come to the health food store that I worked in, and I had a studio there up on the canyon. And we just were lovers. It was a wonderful dog. And then when I moved back east, I could not have a dog where I was living outside of Boston. So I asked my father and my mother if they would take my dog, Eros, and they said, sure. We'll take him until you could buy a house, which is going to take a long time, and get a fence. So finally got a house in Maynard, Mass, and built the fence. And then I asked my father, I told my father, I said, well, I can have my dog down, and you don't have to worry about it. And he said, well, I don't know if I can give him up. That was 8 years. So I said, okay, that's your grandchild. That's what you're going to get. And he loved this dog, and he took him everywhere. And I then got a new black Labrador, and his name is Gabe, and I raised him here. And Eros died in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and he was 15. He was a great dog. And when I was in California, when I found him, I really wanted to do a dog book. I was painting the old elderly immigrant women in Venice Beach, and I really wanted to have a book of beautiful women inside and out with their dogs. So I started to photograph them, and then I moved back east, and I met my partner, and Louise Taylor, who's my co-author of my 4 animal books, my dog books. And we decided to solicit for photos all across the country. So we got these amazing photos of women with their dogs. And I decided, at this time, I think it was like 4 years, I decided that I wanted to get a publisher. So I just got on the phone and I called 3 publishers, and I got someone on the phone from Little Brown and Company. And the person said, well, I'll look at the book. And I thought, this is unbelievable. I mean, this is not something that and I said, well, who are you? She said, well, I read books. So she got right back to us, and we went to Little Brown. And Little Brown's on Beacon Hill, and we walked up the steps, and it was so amazing. And she said, we love this book, but we really would love to have stories connected to it. And could you possibly get stories from the owners? And I was elated. And Louise said, I can't believe this. You know, like, we've done this book for 4 years. You know, I said, Louise, this is how it goes. This is an end. So Little Brown published Dogs and Their Women in 1989, and it sold, it was printed 10 times, and we sold 100,000 copies, and then they wanted us to do Cats and Their Women, Horses and Their Women, and then I forget the Women's Best Friend. And I had a fight with the editor because I wanted it to be Dogs and Their Women too, because it did so well. They wouldn't give it to me, and that's the only one book that's a hardbound book. So that's sort of like the short story. Then I just continue to do dog books, and this book here was started probably 30 years ago, and I had California dogs, I had New York City dogs, and I tried to publish it a while ago. It was called Waiting, because that's what dogs do, they just wait, and nobody took it. And then I tried again recently, and my publishers weren't interested in it, so I just decided that I'm going to self-publish it, which I had never done before. And I had a designer, Dakota X, who's from Ptown, and they started it, and it got delayed for publishing in November, and then it just came out in May. And it is a collection of hundreds of dogs. They're painted Polaroids and Fujifilm. And I had Nisi Regis edit my little sentences and titles or notes underneath them. And this came about. So it's quite different. It's comical, it's loving, but it's not historical. It's hysterical, let's say. And most of the dogs are from Provincetown, and a lot of people are featured in it, and so check it out.
Can you show us a few? I mean, for the live stream and people here, but they can,
okay.
just a few of the.
Let's see. Well, this is outside Liz's Angel Food, and I just said best in town bones and scraps. So most of these dogs are from here.
Can you turn around this way too?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Let's see. One of my favorite.
The microphone for you.
Oh, okay. So my friend
Thank you,
Cynthia
Patricia.
Barger, who's a writer, she said, "Well, can you put my cat in?" And I said, "Cynthia, it's a dog." So I said, "But just let me think about it." So this was a tree in front of my studio in Henchy Lane, and I went over and took pictures of her cat.
Oh, jeez.
And I stuck it up in the tree, and that's what dogs do. They chase cats. And so that was Dogs Will Be Dogs. And this is a cemetery that I photographed in Prague. And I really wanted to have a dog cemetery, so I just used this photo and put the dogs in it. They're all collages, and the title is Missing Our Friends. Let's see, I found this truck in front of Angel Food and just decided to put all the dogs in there, and they just said, "There's no leash dogs on the construction site." And there's a pickleball court, which is great, but this is bicycle built for 3. But my dog is featured in a lot of the photos. It's in memory of her. And she died while I was out of the country, but I haven't gotten a dog yet. And that dog was a part of me for some time, and I always carried her on my chest in a bag and took her to the theater and took her to the movies and restaurants, and nobody ever knew that I had her with me.
What was her name again?
Yofi.
Oh.
She was a rescue dog, and every time I left the restaurant, then she'd stick her head out of the restaurant. And so I just said, geez, nobody knew about her. But anyway, so the 2 books are so entirely different. And Chris, I want to know what you were doing before you got engaged in 2005. How did this come about? And it's like a gift from God, It's you mentioned that you saved 25,000 dogs, and there were 200,000 dogs that died. So I mean, that's important in how you got down there and the whole travels of the journey of saving all these dogs.
Well, I didn't say 25,000, but as a group of people like myself, we came up. It was about 25,000, and it's estimated that 250,000 animals died as a result of that disaster. By far the worst natural, man-made, animal, human, environmental disaster our country has ever seen. I was living in North Truro, and I had been out of work. I was in high tech for many years, and I had been out of work basically since 9/11, when kind of the technology middle class kind of imploded in the United States, and I was watching the news in the comfort of my friend's living room, and I saw people on their roofs, and they were waving white sheets that said "Help us," and they had been up there for days, and the helicopters were coming, and they were taking the people and leaving the animals behind. And I just couldn't bear it. I couldn't bear that. And I'm not gonna, to really, I would encourage you to read the story, because there's a 1,000 steps that happened between watching the news that night and then actually self-dispatching the end of October. So from September until October, I was navigating, getting animals out of the coast and all over the United States. And in October, I went down. I borrowed a friend's Sequoia. I went to Costco and I bought a big box of milk bones and some canned Starbucks coffee and a first aid kit. I had a sleeping bag and that was it. And I had no idea what I was walking into. None. You can't possibly understand from watching it on TV. the miles and miles and miles and miles, just as far as the eye can see, was gone. I have to confess, I made it to North Carolina, and I stayed in a hotel, and I realized that I forgot to take a pillow with me, so I stole the hotel's pillow.
In the book.
That's I don't know if that's in the book, actually. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I can't remember. But
Did they catch you?
no. I would hope that they would just let me go. But anyway, I made it to Mobile, Alabama, and that was the last time I saw lights. That was the last time I saw electricity. And then I just drove into darkness. I just drove into darkness, and I detail it in the book. The only thing lighting my way were my headlights, and there were emergency vehicles, that was it. There were fire engines and military. There were no people driving, none. I pulled up to the shelter. That's another story, how I even got to the shelter, because there were no street signs. There were, streets had been washed away. There was go to the heap of clothing and take a right. There was no GPS. This was 2005. And I got to the shelter. And when I pulled in, there was no one there, of course. It was dark. And all I could hear were the yips of the dogs. And then there was a cat room. And what I remember most was there was one dog that when I saw her, she was probably a collie golden retriever mix. And I just kind of fell in love with her the moment I saw her, and I took her out of that cage. And I said to her, "You're never going to stay in another cage. You're never going to be in another cage." And I set about cleaning it was awful. It was the high water mark was everywhere. The shelter I was at was only a mile from the coast, and it was Mississippi. And Hurricane Katrina actually demolished Mississippi, not New Orleans. What demolished New Orleans was the Army Corps of Engineers making basically a pathway for the tidal surge to go right up to Lake Pontchartrain, and that's where the levees were, and it was too much water, and that's where the flooding occurred, mostly in black neighborhoods, mostly in very low income black neighborhoods where people didn't even have a deed to their house. Their families had lived there for generations. They built them by hand. They passed them down from, grandmother to son to grandchild. And a lot of those people are still gone today. And a lot of those homes are still gone today because they couldn't get FEMA money, because they couldn't prove that they owned the land. So that's what I think about today on the 20th anniversary of Katrina. I think about those people that are lost to history. They're lost. The official tally is like 1,800 people. I actually know a man in New Orleans, Omar Casimir, and he has come up with over 15,000 names of people that were never found or seen again. And his book is called The Katrina List. His family was in the lower ninth ward, which is this area that I'm mostly talking about. So anyway, Honey Bear, she ended up being called Honey Bear. She never went back in that cage. And so to get to your, I know, I just completely didn't answer your question. I had to do something. I could.
What she did before.
What I did before, why would I do that? I thought I was going to go down for one trip and come back with some animals. And what I walked into was a war zone. And what I walked into were people doing everything possible with no regard to their health to crawl. There are no basements in New Orleans. because the city is built below the water table. So there's no basements. They're all on, they've got crawl spaces. And under the crawl spaces are the electrical and, whatever. And we were literally crawling under there with nothing because we didn't know what we needed to have, because this had never happened before in the history of our country. And after experiencing that for 12 days, with very little sleep, Honey and I drove home with 7 other dogs in the Sequoia. And I fell into a deep sleep, and I woke up about 24 hours later, and I said, I have to go back. And that's what I did. And this time I was better prepared. I knew, went to Eastern Mountain Sports in Hyannis, and I got myself a pair of, boots, which lasted 2 weeks. I had to throw them away because they were just so contaminated. We had painter's masks, and we had gardening gloves. That's what we wore to crawl under these buildings. So it became a calling. And I never meant for my life to go to the dogs. That used to be my joke. And then when my publisher said we need a subtitle, I was like, well, how about, and they were like, oh my God, that's great. So, just one more thing I want to say is that it was the testing ground. I hate the word test, but it was.
Like the whole building. Yeah.
It's only a test.
This is only a test.
Yeah. Typically is the
I thought someone was back there smoking.
We had
let me look. Hold this for one second.
everything going on tonight.
Tonight,
Yeah.
yeah, this is a test.
It goes off a lot.
No, it's upstairs. It's going upstairs.
It's upstairs. Check out. It's
Oh God, just what I need to hear is evacuate, evacuate. I'm like,
slide something.
get the dogs.
We should tell the people we're gonna go home.
It will stop.
Sorry for the interference.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Anyone have a tall umbrella? I can try to see if
You got a broom?
Oh, yeah.
There's a button you push.
If you said test.
Testing
Oh
1,
my
2.
God, I should have never said the word test.
Oh no, it's on.
I was kidding.
You could open up. Where's he from? Where's he coming from?
Take the battery out.
That's how it was. How is it?
It's a business.
Oh, I don't even know how to get it back in there now. I'm back ready this time.
I heard it starting upstairs.
It's the whole building.
Yeah.
It goes off.
And it might be
If you open up that umbrella and shake it,
There's no smoke, so it's
No, it's upstairs.
Oh, what's
Somebody-
upstairs?
Somebody is upstairs.
Yeah, but
Somebody's upstairs smoking a cigarette. Yeah.
smell any smoky.
I can smell something though. I can smell it. I can smell it. Yeah, that's what it is. How do you get up there? Shall we go upstairs and knock on the door?
There was nobody there. Oh,
Well, Clyde been trying smoking, so he's
there you go. What did you do?
let me see if he's up there. He wasn't there earlier because he wanted to use chameleon downstairs.
Okay. That should do it.
Maybe we should have a conversation at that side. Carbon monoxide,
Start falling over. Get out the back.
Good thing we didn't close the door.
Oh, really, right?
You should see if he wants to come here.
Is that still running? Oh, well, all right, let's just continue. I have no idea where I was, doesn't really matter.
Tests. Yeah, some kind of test.
That's like a.
Yeah, so I don't know if any of you have adopted animals, rescues.
Yes.
And chances are they're from the South or the Midwest, right? And chances are they were brought here on a transport. And you had to either go meet them somewhere. That whole network of animal rescue started because of Katrina. That was when we figured out, how do we get these animals out of this place to other parts of the country, because most of the country wanted to do something, but they couldn't do what I did and what others like me did. They couldn't just walk away from their lives. Some of them did, but they had to work, or they had careers, or they had children, or whatever, the shelters. So we had to figure out, how do we get them out of New Orleans and Mississippi to Washington State, California, New England, upstate New York. I mean, we sent them everywhere. So that was the beginning of the nationwide transport network, Hurricane Katrina. The other thing I'll say before I turn it back over to Barbara is that subsequent disasters, we have not seen what we saw when it comes to the animals. Because so many organizations, small ones like mine, we're still doing it. We're still on the road every month, my organization. Small organizations and large organizations now have disaster preparedness in place. Shelters down south know what to do now. They don't wait until 12 hours before a Cat 5 may or may not come. They get the animals out. So unfortunately, it came at a great price from an animal life perspective, but things are significantly better now.
Are you asking for volunteers now, or your organization?
No, so all of our people are down in Mississippi. Yeah, we're all in Mississippi. So.
Well, we could open it up to questions, because I assume that most of you people have dogs, or love dogs, or have friends and dog sit. Do any of you have any questions? Yeah.
You mentioned that you would give us the tips at the end of, but I'm very curious, what are those tips? If you could give them to us now, what is really key to do to ensure animal safety in a time of disaster, if you're okay sharing with
Of course. The most important thing is you have to have up-to-date medical records. Okay, you have to constantly keep them up to date, and they need to be in a plastic sealable bag so that they don't get wet. You have to make sure that your animal is up to date on their rabies. Every state in the United States requires rabies. They don't all require other vaccines. Okay, you want to make sure you have a collar with your name and phone number, your cell phone number on it. If you have a cat, and the cat is adverse to getting into a crate, use a pillowcase. All right, you can use a pillowcase to get your cat. You want to make sure you have enough crates available for your animals. The other thing that's really, really, really important to remember is, because of Katrina, there is now a federal law, however far those go nowadays. And that is that if you get evacuated to a FEMA shelter, they have got to take your animal. They cannot turn your animal away. And most facilities now in the United States are set up to take people out of the disaster zone and animals. So they cannot, because that happened after Katrina, people were forced to leave their animals behind. That is no longer the case. So medical records, and you want to make sure you have food and water. And you don't want to wait until, 24 hours before they're screaming, you got to get out now. You want to leave when things are relatively calm. Don't take any chances. It's better that you're not in your area than then stuck there, or leaving when everyone else leaves, especially living on the Cape. There's one road out. So those are the most important things. Medical records, waterproof, and have to be up to date. Have to.
Anybody else have any questions?
I do. What percentage would you say, or the ratio of dogs that were in the street, so to speak, versus pets when you went down there?
Oh boy, that's almost impossible to gauge because so many people let their animals roam in the South. They just let them roam. Collars, no collars, it doesn't matter. So, we were still going under houses, like 6-7 months later, puppies from animals that had been left behind. And the mothers were putting them under buildings to keep them away from humans, to keep them away from, danger, what they perceived as danger. A lot of pets turned feral. We were pulling out animals that had collars months after the storm. So it's impossible to know how many were pets because the stray populations are so incredibly high, and they're not fixed. So they're having puppies and kittens and
And I think a lot of dogs got sent to other states.
oh yeah.
So I know some dogs that a lot of the dogs that I photographed are from the dog park, and a lot of them are rescue dogs. So I think that my dog was rescued from Minnesota. She didn't have an accent, but she definitely is. Anybody else?
Are you still going down to the south then to rescue animals?
Yeah, so I don't go down personally anymore. It's brutal. I did it 3 times, and it's brutal. I'm too old for that now. I do go down because relationships are very important and trust. But I have a team. All of the people that are contractors or volunteers for the organization are based in Mississippi. Yeah.
Do you find that they don't, I don't want this to sound, I don't know how to word it, but I follow a lot of different rescues, and it seems like they don't treat their animals well in the South. Like, it seems like the most extreme cases always come from there. And I'm wondering if you got a sense of why that is, or...
There's a lot of reasons why. They're agricultural communities, so they're used to seeing animals as, property, not members of the family. There's a lot of poverty. There's a lack of education. And this is one that will be very surprising, religion. So they really believe that if God, I've heard people say this, if God did not mean for them to reproduce, then he wouldn't have given them the ability to reproduce. So all of those things play into it, and the cruelty is really bad, but we see that all over the country. But we do see it a lot more in the Deep South. But you're dealing with intense poverty, lack of education, addiction. You're just dealing with so many racism. Mississippi, the history is just brutal. And when you don't treat people with value, and you're just constantly putting them down, soon they start putting themselves down. How could they not? No one's lifting them up. So.
Anybody else?
I just want to give a shout out to my buddy Keegan back there, who adopted one of my Jackson, Mississippi dogs in 2012, Stella. And sadly, we lost her about a year and a half ago now. Yeah. And he named his boat after after Stella. She was truly, sorry Jess, the love of his life. And then to Amy, who I live with, who's got that absolutely adorable little Boston Terrier. She is one of our dogs. And Amy adopted, if you read the book, and I hope you do, you're going to read about Buddy, the dog Buddy. Not Honey Bear. You'll read about her too, but Buddy. And Amy and her husband at the time adopted Buddy. And he was a very broken dog. And it was remarkable that she did to give him a life second to none. So, yeah. So.
Well, there's a few extra books in the back if anyone wants to buy.
Yeah, well,
This are my book.
we'll go to book signings. So they'll be up here. If you want to buy a book, I'll be back there. And then, and we also have some treats if it's allowed. And we want to thank everybody for coming and bearing with us with this weird day with weather and fire alarms. And I don't know your name, but thanks for whatever you did. I appreciate it. Keegan. Oh, okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody else was getting arrested?
Dog treats.
It's all for the dogs tonight.
Well, isn't it a trip to Hawaii? Yeah, wasn't that the first rush? Because you said there's a lot of treats.
And if anyone wants to talk to Chris about the book or the foundation, Chris is here on Saturdays 11 to 7 and sometimes fills in on other days as well, but Saturdays 11 to 7 at East End Books. So we're really happy to not only elevate Barbara Cohen, our artist, but our friend and fellow bookseller who has a lot of good recommendations, Chris. So thank you both for coming. Thanks everybody for coming. Thank you.